Well, what are we doing? Was that my phone ringing or someone else's? Thank you. Yeah, yeah, thank you. Sorry I sent you, or it wasn't. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. If we start at 8, why is that at 8:10 we start looking for the verse? I know what verse it is. I know what verse it is. It's not there for anyone. Hare Krishna. Anyway, there's several verses, so we can start. Sri Chaitanya Charitamrta Adi Lila 1:4-38. Kon karone jabe hoilo abatare mon juga dharma kal hoilo she kale milon. When the Lord desired to appear for another reason, the time for promulgating the religion of the age also arose. Dui hetu abatari lana bhaktagon apone ashvade prema nam sankirtan. Thus, with two intentions, the Lord appeared with his devotees and tasted the nectar of prema with the congregational chanting of the holy name. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gaudavani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarane. So Dvihetu, two reasons why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared. One was to taste the nectar of the relationship between Krishna and his devotee from the position of a devotee. That's explained elsewhere in Chaitanya Charitamrta, earlier in Chaitanya Charitamrta. As Krishna, from the position of Krishna, Krishna can't appreciate the position of the devotee, can't taste what the devotee tastes. So, all right, then I'll become a devotee, then I'll be able to taste these things. and La Bhaktagon, along with the devotees, because we don't taste on our own, we taste in the association of others. So, especially in the association of Sri Rupa Damodar Goswami, Roy Ramananda, and along with the other devotees, Lord Chaitanya tasted the mellows of Krishna consciousness. And the other reason is to distribute Nam Sankirtan, Prem Nam Sankirtan, ecstatic chanting of the holy name of Krishna. This is the business of the Yuga Avatar. Kalotad Harikirtanat, to distribute the Yuga Dharma Harikirtan. So when the time came for that purpose, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu comes and does two things at once. Elsewhere it's explained that in other Kali Yugas also, Krishna comes to spread Sankirtan. But in this particular Kali Yuga, Krishna appears himself as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Shedware achandale kirtan shonchare nam prema mala ganti paraila shonshare. Thus he spread kirtan even among the untouchables. He wove a wreath of the holy name and prema with which he garlanded the entire material world. E mata bhakta bhava koriyangikar aponi achori bhakti korilo prachar. In this way, assuming the sentiment of a devotee, he preached devotional service while practicing it himself. Purport. When Rupa Goswami met Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu at Prayag, Allahabad, he offered his respectful obeisances by submitting that Lord Chaitanya was more magnanimous than any other avatar of Krishna, because he was distributing the love of Krishna. His mission was to enhance love of Godhead. In the human form of life, the highest achievement is to attain the platform of love of Godhead. Lord Chaitanya did not invent a system of religion, as people sometimes assume. Religious systems are meant to show the existence of God, who is then generally approached as the cosmic order supplier. But Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's transcendental mission is to distribute love of Godhead to everyone. Anyone who accepts God as the Supreme can take to the process of chanting Hare Krishna and become a lover of God. Therefore, Lord Chaitanya is the most magnanimous. This munificent broadcasting of devotional service is possible only for Krishna himself. Therefore, Lord Chaitanya is Krishna. So, Prabhupada has said that better not to sit that way before the teenies. Yeah. If you need another cushion or something. Anyway. Srila Prabhupada has presented that Chaitanya Caritamrta is the postgraduate study of Krishna consciousness. And here we get some further insight into that this is for those who've accepted the existence of God. For the atheists, for the agnostics, first we have to set about to prove that there's spirit, that you're not this body, that life is meant for spiritual realization, that there's God. Most people have not reached that understanding, or so many people have not reached that understanding. And out of so many, some have accepted, yes, there must be God. Some of them are impersonalists. God is a force. God is everywhere. God is everywhere and nowhere. But some have accepted that there's a supreme Lord. Sukritana, pious or fortunate people. So then, but then God is our order supplier. He's the cosmic order supplier. God, please give us this. God, please give us that. Please grant us this. Please bless us with that. Whether they're Hindu or Christian or members of any other religious faith, so often this is the relationship. Here's my list of needs. If you would please help me out. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is teaching a process by which to develop spontaneous love for God through the chanting of the holy name of God. So anyone who's fortunate can take advantage of Lord Chaitanya's gift of Prem Nam Sankirtan, chanting the holy name in love of Krishna. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna has taught the philosophy of surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One who has surrendered to the Supreme can make further progress by learning how to love Him. Therefore, the Krishna consciousness movement, propagated by Lord Chaitanya, is especially meant for those who are cognizant of the presence of the Supreme Godhead, the ultimate controller of everything. His mission is to teach people how to dovetail themselves into engagements of transcendental, loving service. So this is, again, the same point. For those who've accepted, Bhagavad Gita ends, surrender. Surrender to the personality of Godhead. Then Lord Chaitanya picks it up, surrender with love, and teaches how to love Krishna. He is Krishna teaching his own service from the position of a devotee. The Lord's acceptance of the role of a devotee in the eternal form of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is another of the Lord's wonderful features. A conditioned soul cannot reach the absolute personality of Godhead by his imperfect endeavor, and therefore it is wonderful that Lord Sri Krishna, in the form of Lord Gauranga, has made it easy for everyone to approach him. Prabhupada gives the example in teachings of Lord Chaitanya that the teacher tells the student, write A, write B, write C. But if some students don't get it, then the teacher himself may pick up chalk and show A, B, C. So the teacher's not a student learning the alphabet, but the teacher shows this is how to do it by drawing the characters himself. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu teaches devotional service from the position of a devotee. He himself sets the example of a devotee striving to love Krishna by engagement in devotional service. Swarup Damodar Goswami has described Lord Chaitanya as Krishna himself with the attitude of Radharani, or a combination of Radha and Krishna. Yes. Radha duty, Balitam. Krishna in the mood of Radharani. The intention of Lord Chaitanya is to taste Krishna's sweetness in transcendental love. He does not care to think of himself as Krishna because he wants the position of Radharani. Srimati Radharani is the topmost devotee of Krishna. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu takes her position in order to taste love of Krishna. So he doesn't want to think of himself as Krishna. He thinks of himself as the devotee of Krishna, or taking the mood of Srimati Radharani. We should remember this. A class of so-called devotees called the Nadiya Nagaris, or Gauda Nagaris, pretend that they have the sentiment of gopis toward Lord Chaitanya. But they do not realize that he placed himself not as the enjoyer, Krishna, but as the enjoyed, the devotee of Krishna. The concoctions of unauthorized persons pretending to be bona fide have not been accepted by Lord Chaitanya. Presentations such as those of the Gauda Nagaris are only disturbances to the sincere execution of the mission of Lord Chaitanya. Lord Chaitanya is undoubtedly Krishna himself, and he's always non-different from Srimati Radharani. But the emotion technically called Vipralambha, which the Lord accepted for confidential reasons, should not be disturbed in the name of service. A mundaner should not unnecessarily intrude into affairs of transcendence and thereby displease the Lord. One must always be on guard against this sort of devotional anomaly. A devotee is not meant to create disturbances to Krishna. As Srila Rupa Goswami has explained, devotional service is anukulyena, or favorable to Krishna. Acting unfavorably toward Krishna is not devotion. Kamsa was the enemy of Krishna. He always thought of Krishna, but he thought of him as an enemy. One should always avoid such unfavorable so-called service. So there are 13 apasampradayas. Apasampradaya means off course. It's a sampradaya, it's a party, but it's an off course sampradaya. Deviant sampradaya, apasampradaya. These have been listed by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Ao Baulu, Saki Beki, Jati Goshai, Gauranga Nagari, in this way, at 13. And they've been explained by my godbrother Suhotra Swami in a book which is not so easily available, directly on the topic of the Apasampradayas. From Prabhupada's description, it appears that the Gauranga Nagari Apasampradaya wants to approach Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Please enjoy us. We have love for you like gopis. You're Krishna, we know that you're Krishna. And so we're in the mood of gopis, and we want to give you pleasure, we want to serve you. So that's their sentiment. But devotional service is not properly performed merely by sentiment. Sometimes mundane scholars, they look at these Apasampradayas and they say these are just other flavors of the Gaudiya movement. Baul, Gauranga Nagari, Saki Beki. Oh, these are very interesting. These are other approaches to Gaudiya Vaishnavism. And they make no distinction, or they don't discriminate, this is better, this is worse, because they're just scholars. They have no stake in devotional service to Krishna, nor are they, well, let's leave it at that. They're not devotees, they're scholars. So for them, this is also devotional service. This is also bhakti, this is also Bengali Vaishnavism. But the acharyas, like Bhaktivinoda Thakur, have rejected the Gauranga Nagaris. We should observe this, that out of sentiment one may do anything. Out of sentiment, let's serve this way, let's serve that way. It would be really cool to do this. It would really be ecstatic to do that. It would really be, Krishna would really like this, Krishna would really like that. But if we just go by our sentiment, then we may get it very wrong. The method of devotional service is not to follow one's sentiments, as if whatever the heart tells one must be perfect. Whatever the mind comes up in the mind must be good. Or anyway, it's good for me. It may not be good for you, but I like it. And then it spreads. So this is not approved by Srila Prabhupada or by the previous acharyas, this method of inventing one's own path of devotional service. Then utpataya eva kalpate. Utpata means off the path. Lord Chaitanya has accepted the role of Radharani, and we should support that position, as Swarup Damodar did in the Gampira, the room where Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu stayed in Puri. He always reminded Lord Chaitanya of Radha's feelings of separation as they are described in Srimad Bhagavatam. And Lord Chaitanya appreciated his assistance. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in his last years in the Antya Lila, stayed in Puri, and his main business was to relish these internal feelings in relationship with Krishna. And his assistants in this regard were Swarup Damodar and Ramananda Roy. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was feeling a particular mood of love for Krishna, they would chant different verses that would augment or enhance that mood and deepen the Lord's ecstatic feelings. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu very much appreciated this. But the Gauranagaris, who placed Lord Chaitanya in the position of enjoyer, and themselves as his enjoyed, are not approved by Lord Chaitanya or by Lord Chaitanya's followers. Instead of being blessed, the foolish imitators are left completely apart. Their concoctions are against the principles of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The doctrine of transcendental enjoyment by Krishna cannot be mixed up with the doctrine of transcendental feeling of separation from Krishna in the role of Radharani. This matter of different loving sentiments in relationship with Krishna is a science described by Srila Rupa Goswami in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. There are different sentiments or feelings in relationship with Krishna. And Rupa Goswami has analyzed that some of these feelings are compatible with other feelings, some are incompatible, and the incompatible tastes are not very much appreciated. Like if you put a little cashew in sweet rice, that will be appreciated. Or a little camphor or a little elaichi in sweet rice, that will be appreciated. It enhances the taste. But if you put imli, that will not be appreciated. Or if you think it's all white, a little red would make it nice, so let's put a little tomato. That will not be appreciated because the taste is incompatible. Some tastes are compatible. Some tastes are incompatible. So, just like friendship is compatible with service. Actually, every relationship is compatible with dasya, with service. So, and it may be compatible with parental love also. Lord Balaram feels a mixture of friendship and parental love because he's the older brother. So the older brother has some parental role. He has to take care of the younger brother. So this business of taking care, superior taking care of the inferior, belongs to the parental mood. And friendship, as between equals, it belongs to the Sakya, friendly mood. So Lord Balaram's mood is that of a friend, but there's some mixture. Sometimes we see a mixture of parental affection. So that's compatible. That's compatible. But the friendship and conjugal love are not compatible. The friends of Krishna, or the friendly dealings, are, or even more so, the parental dealings and conjugal dealings are not compatible. Not at all compatible. So, therefore, when poets used to compose devotional poetry and wanted to present their compositions to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his system was that first Swarup Damodar had to go through it. Composition had to be vetted by Swarup Damodar Goswami. And if he would approve it, then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would approve it. What was Swarup Damodar Goswami looking for? It wasn't grammar, but are the relationships in the proper order, proper mood? Because if there was mixing of incompatible relationships, rasabhas, then it would be disturbing to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Just, we don't want to offer the deities sweet rice with imli in it. That wouldn't be very good. So it gives a funny taste, strange taste, displeasing taste. So similarly, if some poet would compose something in which the relationships were improperly presented, then Swarup Damodar Goswami would send it back. He wouldn't accept it. That this is not fit for Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to hear. It will just disturb him. He wants to relish and not to be disturbed by incompatible mixing of rasas. So the inexperienced devotees, by their mental concoctions, may come up with something that to them seems ecstatic, seems creative, seems poetic, seems deeply devotional, seems to open up new areas of understanding and appreciation. But because they're neophytes, what they concoct will be a disturbance. What they concoct, Shruti Smriti Puranadi Pancharatra Vidimbina Aikantiki Harer Bhaktir Utpataya Vikalpate. What we imagine will just be a disturbance. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada emphasized to us again and again, don't concoct. Because this has already been seen in history, that the so-called followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu may invent something, concoct something, and present it as this is our way, and it's not appreciated. That all right, we have our way, you have your way. Rather, the acharyas have rejected it. No, you're disturbing Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and misleading people. He's in the mood of separation from Krishna, and you're trying to present a different mood that will not be appreciated. So, anukul yena Krishna anushilana, acharya, one has to follow the acharyas. We see also, it's significant, apani achari bhakti korilo prachar. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught by his own example and by practice. Apani achari, by practicing himself, and korilo prachar, by preaching. So one point is that one has to practice. One shouldn't be a hypocrite teaching devotional service, but he himself doesn't follow the rules and regulations, doesn't practice, that will not be appreciated. Not that we make a big show of Harinam or big show of devotional service, but we don't follow even the basic rules and regulations. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu showed the example of a strict devotee. Apani Achari Prabhu. He strictly followed. Not simply preaching, but not following. That won't be helpful. Apani Achari. He followed, so he could preach. And another point, Apani Achari Bhakti, he practiced it, but that wasn't the whole story. No, I'll just practice and let everyone else go to hell. Korilo Prachar. He practiced and he distributed Krishna Prema Pradayate. Prabhupada didn't appreciate the so-called devotees who are only interested in their own spiritual progress, or who take that position that I'm interested in, and then they stay in Vrindavan, they go to Radhakund, and he was especially not appreciative when his disciples or followers tried to do that. I remember someone would appear before Prabhupada with great tilak. And, where has he been? Who told him he could to go there? Why are they going? Who are they mixing with? Call the GBC. He didn't say, oh, very nice, they've gone to Radhakund, they're relishing. No, why have they gone? Who has given them permission? What are they doing? Why they are doing like this? He didn't authorize. Yes, very nice, let everyone go to Radhakund. Rupa Goswami is recommending, yes, everyone should spend 100% of his time in Radhakund, chanting the holy name and relishing devotional service. But but that means in their spiritual body. Not that they have to die and take a spiritual, but they have to be evolved to the point where they're actually situated in their spiritual identity. Then they can relish these things. 24 hours a day. Otherwise, the neophyte devotee goes to Radhakund, and sooner or later he wants to relish the same taste, but in the reflection, in the degraded reflection called the material world. And so he falls down. Because it's premature, he's not eligible. Because it's not advised by the Acharya. Spiritual master hasn't said, yes, you go to Radhakund. Spiritual master said, preach. Even the last words of Krishna book, Prabhupada points out that Parikshit retired from all active engagements and sat down on the Ganges simply to hear from Sukadeva Goswami. But we shouldn't imitate Maharaj Parikshit or Sukadeva Goswami by sitting down in a secluded place, chanting the holy name, or simply hearing Krishna Katha, but one should preach. One should preach. Korilo Prachar. All right, some questions, some comments. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Okay, now we have the microphone, but do we have any questions? Yes, Justin.
Hare Krishna, good morning. The literature and the contents of the Bhagavad Gita, and let's say the Srimad Bhagavatam, is so vast. When you're preaching, could you possibly mention a few topics or possibly subject matter that one would preach?
Yes, Prabhupada there was an article sent for Back to Godhead, and Satsvarup Maharaj sent it on for Srila Prabhupada to query it, is this appropriate? And Prabhupada said no, that these were advanced topics and therefore unsuitable for Back to Godhead. He said these things are on the higher platform, and we're publishing Back to Godhead for the people in general. So those topics were unsuitable. Then he said they should write articles like prayers of Bhishma Dev, prayers of Queen Kunti, prayers by Arjuna. I forget which other ones he mentioned. But these topics, what is the difference between matter and spirit? So many topics from Bhagavad Gita, any of the, what is the Atma, what is the Paramatma, Brahman, Paramatma, Bhagavan. So many topics are there in Bhagavad Gita especially, and in Srimad Bhagavatam also. But the confidential topics are not meant for general broadcast. Therefore, he also didn't like romantic pictures of Radha and Krishna. This is not suitable. So pictures in the temple, he gave what there should be. Krishna instructing Arjuna that Mahavishnu standing in the causal ocean, Panchatattva picture, Radha Krishna picture, as you've seen. These things, not rasa dance and intimate dealings of Radha and Krishna. These are not for our temple. Is that okay?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. My question is, what is the destination of someone who has the intention to properly practice bhakti, but who has the intention to properly practice bhakti, but they end up joining one of these Apara Sampradayas?
Their destination is not very good. What's the destination of those who have the intention of doing bhakti, but they join one of these Apara Sampradayas? In one place only, in Chaitanya Caritamrta, Prabhupada gives them some credit that they're chanting the name of Gauranga, or they're attracted to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So some good fortune is there. But that's the most he gives them. Everywhere else they're blasted, as here. But they're creating displeasure for the Lord. That's called pratikul, and Prabhupada compares them to Kamsa. Kamsa was Krishna conscious, but in the wrong way. He didn't please Krishna by service. So the apasampradayas, utpataya vikalpa, they created disturbance. So what's that? Just like here in our Krishna consciousness movement, if you do something that Prabhupada wanted, oh, very nice. But if you create a disturbance by some concoction, by some mischief, then what is your position? Yasya prasada nagatir kutopi, you're nowhere. When the spiritual master is pleased, then Krishna is pleased. When our spiritual master is displeased, we're nowhere. So they're nowhere. And worse than nowhere, they mislead others. That's particularly not appreciated, particularly displeasing. Something else? Yes. Kanagopala.
Hare Krishna. Maharaj, how does one safely approach these higher topics? As in, even in Srimad Bhagavatam.
How does one approach the entire topic? Yes.
How does one approach these higher topics that Srila Prabhupada is giving in Krishna book? He summarizes.
One approaches them very carefully and in sequence. It's famous that some group in Los Angeles of devotees were selecting from Prabhupada's books the essential nectar of Radha and Krishna, and that's all they wanted to talk about. Because, God forbid that they should hear about Yashoda Mai and be distracted by some ras other than Madhurya ras. So Prabhupada was furious with them. That's not the way to do it. But in the course of our study, naturally, we study these things, we hear these things. But for the beginners, it's not very helpful to focus on these things. We've heard from more than one of the followers of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur that, especially I think from Srila Sridhar Maharaj, that the devotees, disciples of Saraswati Thakur were encouraged to read Chaitanya Caritamrta, beginning to end, but there were some parts they were not allowed to discuss. One was the higher part of Ramananda Samvad, the discussions between Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Ramananda Roy. Another was this chapter of Chaitanya Caritamrta. Not that because these things are discussed, what are the, concerning Radha Krishna. So you can read it, but don't discuss it. That was Saraswati Thakur's direction. Not that you sit in the mat and you relish these things. You can read it as you're reading the whole book, but these portions are off limits for discussion. In the mature stage, one develops a natural attraction for these things. In the mature stage. But in the immature stage, if one thinks, yes, now it's spontaneously amateur, then it becomes like a shadow or a parody. Prabhupada compared that a little girl wants to wear her mother's high-heeled shoes. So, and we've sometimes see this little girl looks in the closet, she sees her mother's high-heeled shoes, right? So she puts on the shoes and tries to walk and, trips and falls because it's not she's just a child. So the mother may wear these things if she wants to, but the child can't do that. So prematurely, if we try to relish Radha Krishna Lila and be like Raghunath Das Goswami or Rupa Goswami, Haridas Thakur, then it just becomes a joke. I remember we attended some Pandal program, preaching program, ISKCON program in Delhi, and 3 or 4 devotees were invited to speak, and one of my godbrothers, who was living in Radhakund, I think, was, speaking all very high things. And the audience was relishing, because he's speaking about Krishna and gopis, and the stories were very sweet and entertaining and so on, relishable. And I remember one of my senior godbrothers, we were discussing, because neither of us thought that the topics were appropriate. He said, "Who does he think he is? Speaking these things for this audience." And that godbrother later fell down. So these were not the topics that Prabhupada approved for us to speak about to the public, or even to focus on among ourselves. We can't omit them. But if we try to focus on them in the immature stage, it won't work. What is that? Pujala Ragapata Gaurava Bange. Saraswati Thakur. We'll keep these things above our heads. Not that we'll jump in. All right? Okay. Thank you all very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
His Holiness Jayadvaita Maharaj ki jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki jai.
Jai.
Pujala Ragapata Gaurava Bange. Oh, Krishna. Feeling a little better today?